Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation Santa Rosa. If you seek to celebrate life, empower people, create a community where we care for one another, and help to build a better world, if these purposes give your life meaning, and you embrace them as a sacred mission, then this is a home for your spirit. We attend our services via Zoom and in person, so let's wave to each other. The camera's back there, folks, if you want to wave. Hi. Before we get to our chalice lighting, Zoom attendees, you might want to get your own chalice ready. There is an insert in your order of service if you're in person, and I believe a link on in the chat if you're on Zoom, a form to suggest people that you think would be excellent members of our ministerial search committee. This is the last Sunday to turn that in. So there is a box for leaving the paper version in the narthex. Today, I want to thank the office helpers who welcome people in person and help them on the phone. They fold the orders of service, they lock up sometimes at the end of the day, and do so many other things, large and small, to make this congregation hum all week. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, thank you. For thousands of years before there was a United States of America, of course, this continent was home to many peoples. With grief, we acknowledge that this nation was birthed from the genocide of indigenous people. With faith, we proclaim that no nation can truly thrive without seeking just and peaceful relations with its neighbors. We gather today on the unceded traditional territory of the Pomo people, and all of us, whatever our ancestry, have reason to be grateful for the Pomo's leadership, their wisdom, their stewardship in the past and the present. We resolve to redress any wrongs so that all of us may share equally in the abundance of this land.
Our chalice will be lit this morning by Raphael Kaufman. He's been a member of our congregation for 20 years now. These are the words of Emma Lazarus. Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land. Here at our sea-washed sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch, whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome, her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Keep ancient lands your storied pomp, cries she, with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door.
For some Unitarian Universalists, including some of indigenous heritage, the language of building a land evokes domination and colonization, understandable given our history. For others, this hymn speaks of a dream that we might build differently and together make a community of peace and justice. Let us raise our voices for that dream and pledge to make it a reality. Please rise in body or spirit as you are able, and let's sing hymn number 121 together. The words will be projected right here. please be seated. I don't know if we have any kids with us today. We knew with vacations and everything it was likely to be a very small number, but we are still going to sing Anybody Out Who Is Going Out and sing this lovely song to ourselves as we go on our day. So let us sing Trust the Light. Trust the light. I got a cue. Our heart as we send you on your way. Go with kindness, go with wonder as you travel through your day. If there's any kids that I'm not seeing, you can accompany Annika now. Okay, Annika, you're on your own.
This is Let America Be America Again by Langston Hughes. Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain seeking a home where he himself is free.
America never was America to me.
Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great strong land of love where never kings connive nor tyrants scheme that any man be crushed by one above.
It never was America to me.
Oh, let my land be a land where liberty is crowned with no false patriotic wreath, but opportunity is real and life is free. Equality is in the air we breathe.
There's never been equality for me, nor freedom in this homeland of the free.
Say, who are you that mumbles in the dark? And who are you that draws your veil across the stars?
I am the poor white, fooled and pushed apart. I am the Negro, bearing slavery's scars. I am the red man driven from the land. I am the immigrant clutching the hope I seek and finding only the same old stupid plan of dog eat dog, of mighty crush the weak. I am the young man, full of strength and hope, tangled in that ancient endless chain of profit, power, gain, of grab the land, of grab the gold, of grab the ways of satisfying need, of work the men, of take the pay, of owning everything for one's own greed. I am the farmer, bondsman to the soil. I am the worker sold to the machine. I am the Negro servant to you all. I am the people, humble, hungry, mean, hungry yet today despite the dream. Beaten yet today, oh pioneers. I am the man who never got ahead, the poorest worker bartered through the years. Yet I'm the one who dreamt our basic dream in the old world while still a serf of kings, who dreamt a dream so strong, so brave, so true that even yet its mighty daring sings in every brick and stone, in every furrow turned that's made America the land it has become. Oh, I'm the man who sailed those early seas in search of what I meant to be my home. For I'm the one who left dark Ireland's shore and Poland's plain and England's grassy lea, and torn from black Africa's strand I came to build a homeland of the free. Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet. And yet must be the land where every man is free, the land that's mine, the poor man's, Indians, Negroes, me, who made America, whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow in the rain, must bring back our mighty dream again. Sure, call me any ugly name you choose. The steel of freedom does not stain. From those who live like leeches on the people's lives, we must take back our land again, America. Oh, yes, I say it plain. America never was America to me, and yet I swear this oath, America will be.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Elaine Wellen. Our Share the Offering today, our recipient is Project Censored. It's appropriate for America's 250th birthday because its mission is to promote media literacy, independent journalism, and democracy. It's best known for its annual edition of the Top 10 Censored Stories of the Year, publishing now for 50 years the news that didn't make the news. The annual edition is the product of a multi-university program that educates students and we, the public, about the importance of a truly free press for democratic self-government. Censorship and disinformation undermine democracy. Project Censored exposes and opposes news censorship and promotes independent journalism and critical thinking. Certainly, the political and economic environments for public media, especially news outlets like major city and national newspapers, has changed radically from its state 50 years ago. The SSU prof who started Project Censored in a sociology class clearly faced corporate and profit-driven policies about what got published. But back then, newspapers existed in abundance. Today, that cash-strapped industry, crippled by losing its advertising revenue base, has witnessed the rapid loss of hundreds of newspapers nationwide. The big ones are often swept up cheaply by venture capitalists who gut staffs, and what's left is often just run into the ground for profit. A federal government and president who regularly denigrate reporters and newspapers and limit their access to the seats of power do so mostly because they merely report the unprecedented assaults on our democracy. As or even more dangerous is that small and middle-sized newspapers have simply disappeared, leaving most America without understanding what's going on in their own local towns and cities. If you never learn that crime is actually diminishing in California, according to reports this week in our own Press Democrat, and nationally as well, you might believe that the outright lies about mounting crime by immigrants and vote accordingly. So while the mainstream press confronting Project Censored 50 years ago has changed, the challenge and the importance of printing the news that didn't make the news, and now often can't make the news, has never been greater. Your offering today will help to provide hundreds of students with essential skills to effectively navigate our increasingly complex media landscape. And the results of their yearly investigations benefit the rest of us. The 50th anniversary edition of Project Censored is available on their website. Come see a copy at the Justice Council table after the service. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. Please be as generous as you can. And if you're joining us online, please look in the chat box or use our website to find the Give Now link. During the offering, you may light a candle to mark a personal milestone or joy or sorrow if you would like, but please wait until the ushers have passed your row to get up. You are also welcome to do so during the prelude each week.
Please join me in dedicating these offerings. The words are projected here. To the work of creating beloved community within and beyond our walls, we dedicate these offerings and ourselves.
I'm your lay chaplain for the day, and I'll be available outside the sanctuary after the service, and all lay chaplains are always available. I'll be reading from the congregation's Milestones book. We remember our milestones because they remind us of what matters to us and who we are. The book is kept by the entrance to the sanctuary before the service. Today's milestones are what seems appropriate, kind of a birthday listing. Natalie Brundard, excuse me, it's close, I worked on that one. Her mother is turning 97 on the 1st. It's likely to be her last birthday. Her room was decorated up, including helium balloons, and she loved it. She has dementia and is slipping away both in body and mind. But Natalie says she's still the most wonderful woman I've ever met. And I want to be just like her when I grow up. Leanne Fagan and Deborah Lyons are celebrating their birthdays on the 6th. And with all of you, because they'd like you to join them for carrot cake and ice cream and sherbet after the service. And they also mentioned that this is the Dalai Lama's birthday on the 6th, so they are in good company. Thank you.
We pray with overflowing hearts for these joys. May they be multiplied, may they be sweet. May our sharing of our joys with one another help all of us to know how beautiful and sweet and varied life can be. We hold in our hearts as well, and we hold up to the light that guides us all, those who are heart sore today, who are beset by worries, who are worn down, who are mourning. Here too, we are together. None of us need to walk this life alone. And so with gratitude that we interweave all of the joys and sorrows and hopes and fears of our lives with one another's, we hold everything in the mystery and the light. Blessed be. 3 bells will mark the beginning of our meditation time, and then we will end it by singing another prayer, Spirit of Life, number 123 in the gray hymnal, and the words are projected above.
Well, as I've talked about here, and many of you know, I grew up unchurched. My father comes from a Jewish faith background. My mom comes from a Roman Catholic faith background. Both of them more or less completely abandoned those faith traditions in their 20s and became hippie Hindus. And so that was my faith sort of origin. I did get some training in those, in the Hindu tradition from my mom, especially. But to be honest, it just wasn't really a big part of my life. Spirituality wasn't a big part of my life. And I was okay with that. I didn't feel disconnected or anything like that. It just sort of was what it was. I was just going about my life. And I was born and raised in San Diego. And while I was obviously American, duh, I never really felt like I was inside, if that makes sense. I didn't grow up in a traditional household. I wasn't Christian. The whole idea of a nuclear family was kind of laughable given my family situation and what I grew up in. And I was definitely not what was shown on TV. I grew up in a very liberal household, and so I felt like we spent most of our energy kind of railing against the man. You know, I grew up in a Gen X household, right? I grew up listening to music that was angry with the system, like Rage Against the Machine and Bad Religion. And I really identified with that growing up. You know, I knew I was American, but like I said, I never really felt like I was kind of inside that. I always felt like I was outside of that, raising my fist towards the inside. So flash forward to about 2019. I'm going to seminary. I'm going to Star King School for the Ministry. It bills itself as the most progressive seminary in the world. And it's a Unitarian Universalist identity seminary for those that aren't familiar with it. And when I was there, I received 2 invitations firmly, we'll call it. One of them was to really examine my place in American society. Like I said, I kind of always saw myself on the outside of that. But when I got to Star King, I realized that of my classmates, I was probably the most inside person there by a mile. And it was kind of an uncomfortable place to be honest, because I really didn't identify with it. 60 years ago, I wouldn't have been considered white even, just given the background of my parents. And so for me, it just really didn't resonate. But I was learning there, of course, that I was benefiting from this culture that I was seen as part of, right? And even if I didn't see myself like that, my classmates sure saw me like that. So there was no way to deny it. I kind of was the man all of a sudden. It was hard, right? The second invitation came in a sort of like an exploring your spirituality class that they had. It was really big on ancestor worship, which I love. And so they're very sort of firm invitation, keeping in mind too that, like I said, I grew up unchurched. And so in a lot of ways, my faith and my spirituality is very much informed by my Unitarian Universalist conversion that occurred, 10 years prior, right? I was very comfortable sort of gathering bits and pieces from different traditions and different ways of thinking and bringing those together to form something that made sense for me. Well, this class, which was very sensitive to cultural appropriation as well, I just remember the instructor basically saying something to the effect of, you really should just search within your own faith tradition for the spirituality that you seek. You really shouldn't go into other people's faith traditions to do that. And what she was saying with that was my sort of genetic faith traditions, that she was inviting me to go and look into my Jewish heritage, go and look into my Roman Catholic heritage to find those spaces that I was looking for, as opposed to trying to appropriate another tradition or move into some space that, quote, wasn't mine. So, I was there to learn. I was there to work on myself. I said, okay. So I accepted the invitation. And as I sat with it and I tried to hone in on that, I just felt no connection. I felt no connection to my Jewish ancestry. I didn't feel any connection to my Roman Catholic ancestry, neither in a sort of like direct relational, there is my ancestor's ghost, I feel their presence, but also just the sort of spiritual legacy of it. And to be totally honest, it left me feeling kind of orphaned. Like, oh man, like what happened here? Did my parents basically like toss out all of this history and tradition, and then now what am I inheriting? I think I'm just American. And that wasn't necessarily the best place to be in that institution, right? But it was kind of a hard moment for me. To just accept that, oh, actually, I guess my spirituality is baseball and apple pie and, the prosperity gospel waters that our culture swims in that I am railing against. All of that stuff is actually my spiritual heritage. So as I held with all this and I kind of continued to allow it to evolve within me and move within me, it actually became a very beautiful part of my ministry and a very vital part of it. I'll mention two things about it. The first is that, as I went through seminary, I had to figure out what was important about Unitarian Universalism to me. Why am I pursuing this? And really the thing that came to mind for me was the big tent. The most important thing about Unitarian Universalism for me is the big tent, the idea that we are all welcome in these spaces. And let's be fair, that's a totally American ideal. We don't always live up to it, but it is an American ideal. And Unitarian Universalism, in a lot of ways, is an American religion in that way. And I don't just mean the big tent, only for socioeconomic, diversity or racial diversity, but I mean also welcoming all of us in our wholeness, finding those parts of us that transcend the characteristics and the demographics. Do we hold a big tent open for people who have dealt with trauma, for people who are grieving, right? How do we hold the space for everyone to show up in their fullness? And that is absolutely vital and central to my ministry, and I can't divorce that from my American background. The second thing that came was that I believe that systems are reformed from within. It's very easy to look at America's dominant culture right now and just dismiss it as I want nothing to do with that. But I don't feel that call. I feel a different call in my ministry, which is how do we reform it? And since I'm placed in the inside of it, I feel like I have a different perspective about how to do that. And that became clear even when I was in school, as I would hear people talk about my culture in a way from being more on an outside perspective that oftentimes was quite accurate, but also often missed some of the nuance and missed some of the pain as well that's there. My mentor says that wisdom is not wisdom until we include where we've been with where we're going. And I feel like on the eve of this birthday of ours that we just had 250 years celebrating, I feel like we have a really beautiful opportunity. We hold this big tent, which doesn't depend on these traditions of old. And so I think what we have now is an opportunity to figure out how to meet people right where they are in their fullness and in their wholeness. Not as people defined by you come from this country or this place, but when we all come together, what does it mean to just connect as a human? So that's my invitation for you all too. For you who think you're on the inside, think you're on the outside. The bottom line is we're all Americans. We're all part of this great big experiment. And so my prayer for us is that we find those ways to meet each other right where we are. May it be so. Please rise and body your spirit as you are able and join us in singing number 318, We Would Be One. The words are projected above.
These immigrant hymns. That one started off in Finland. Here's another one that came here via Puerto Rico. Look around at how lucky we are to be alive right now. You feeling lucky? Did you have a good party yesterday? Does it feel like a great time to be alive? Okay, Joe says yes, so, he's good. You can go have a coffee or something. If you're not feeling in such a party mood, let me tell you why I think we're so lucky to be alive right now. I really loved the bicentennial year. I was old enough to remember it and enjoy all the fun things we did in school and wearing tri-corner hats and stuff, but not old enough to recognize any sort of cynicism or commercialism, which older people now tell me, like, oh my God, the bicentennial, it was bicentennial this and bicentennial that and bicentennial basomatic fish or whatever. For me, it was just this great party. Time to think about what it meant to be a citizen of this country and to be glad it existed. So I'm kind of bummed right now. I mean, this should be a great celebratory birthday, like big birthdays are. And there's a lot about just how things are going in the country right now, but also the very specific corruption of America 250, the 10-year bipartisan non-political commission that was set up to have a grand party, including the Smithsonian's annual folk festival was going to be the folk festival to end them all on the Mall, celebrating American music over the last 250 years and beyond. Well, America 250 had most of its funding yanked, fed into Freedom 250, and we can see where the money didn't go. It didn't go into creating a huge national celebration, paying big artists, having events all over the country. It went into the pockets of no-bid contractors who slapped together booths on the cheap and presumably paid a nice fat kickback to the person who got them the contract. Just a small example of the deep corruption of the government with which we now suffer. It was just hard to feel patriotic for me. So what will the next big celebration be like? Well, I won't be here. But come the tricentennial in 2076, people will look back on this, the semi-quintennial of 2026, and what will they see? Will they see a corrupt government that brought about the end of the American experiment in radical freedom and the power of the people? One of the inflection points where a smaller and smaller number of wealthier and greedier elites came to control the country and the world? Will they shake their heads and say, yeah, that was the beginning of the end? Or will they look back on it as we look back upon Gettysburg, the civil rights movement, the times of crisis, violence, conflict, but a time when the country took a turn toward its ideals, toward becoming that America that the poet sings about? Well, whether the younger people of today, when they're grown to age 60, 70, 80, and 50 years, whether they tell our story with grief or gratitude depends what we do now and in the years to come, on how we meet this moment. The people singing how lucky we are to be alive right now, if you're not up on modern musicals, are characters in the great hip-hop opera Hamilton. They're singing in 1776. They're in New York City, which they call the greatest city in the world. and things are roiling. They're scared. They don't want to go to war. They don't know what's going to happen. But they feel lucky to be alive at a moment of crisis. Maybe because it's moments of crisis where we know just how alive we are. We know just how much what we do matters. Even three sisters who don't even have the right to vote, who sing that line for us. Look around at how lucky we are to be alive in a time of crisis. So the origin of the word crisis is not just something bad. It means a point of culmination, a point of separation, like the very tip top of a jagged mountain. It's an instant when things must change one way or another. They teeter on the cusp. And that makes them ripe with possibility and potential. If people in 1776 knew anything, they knew we don't know where this is going. It's exciting, it's important to our lives, and we hope to the future of this country that we are founding and the world. We are really alive right now because we don't know what's going to happen. Rebecca Solnit, who's not only an international, but one of our homegrown sages, being here in the Bay Area, she wrote a whole book about disaster as an opportunity that can bring out the best in people. Disaster, things that are incontrovertibly disasters, natural disasters like Hurricane Katrina. Well, some call that the federal flood, so it's partly a human-made and partly a natural disaster. 9/11, lesser known to us disasters like a tremendous explosion in Halifax Harbor that killed hundreds of people when an entire ammunition ship blew up and sent shrapnel down upon the city. Her book is called A Paradise Built in Hell: The Extraordinary Communities That Arise in Disaster. You know, the conventional wisdom is that in bad times, when people are stressed, terrified for their own lives and the lives of the people they care about the most, when resources are scarce, when nobody knows what's going to happen next, well, it brings out the worst in us. We're panicky, we draw in, all our altruism and generosity go out the window. She did considerable research and presents to us a not at all. On the contrary, she talks about the documented ways that people came together and took care of one another in ways that we don't do usually in times that there is no crisis, when everything was falling apart and when the future was so uncertain. They built a paradise by creating a community of care. She says, this is a paradise of rising to the occasion that points out, by contrast, how the rest of the time most of us fall down from the heights of possibility, down into diminished selves and dismal societies. Many now do not even hope for a better society, but they recognize it when they encounter it. And that discovery shines out even through the namelessness of their experience. Others recognize it, grasp it, make something of it, and long-term social and political transformations, both good and bad, arise from the wreckage. The door to potential paradises is in hell. If you've ever had a moment in the last year or so where you've thought, this is hell, we are in hell. We are making a hell for one another, and we don't know when it's going to end. Solnit wants you to know there's a door to potential paradises there. She says if paradise now arises in hell, it's because, this is again a quote, in the suspension of the usual order and the failure of most systems, that teetering, who knows where it's going to go, we are free to live and act another way. You know, I think we see that right now. I think we see the way systems are shaken and truths are exposed. Like in the political realm, it seems to me the pundits were divided this week between a whole bunch saying that the plain language of the 14th Amendment doesn't mean what it just says on the surface. Super duper clear. The people in 1866, okay, so slavery was on their mind. They could have said, if you were enslaved or are descended from people who were enslaved, you are a citizen of this country. But they didn't do that. They made it very simple. Born under the jurisdiction of this country or any of its states, you're a citizen. When the Supreme Court said the same, by a terrifyingly narrow margin, oh my gosh, the pundits went crazy. That's crazy talk, they said. That's radical. What do you mean? You're just born here and you're a citizen. It is radical, you know. Lots of nations do not have birthright citizenship. Many do, but many say that is too crazy. There's a lot of crazy in the dreams that created this country, all tangled up with the bigotry and the lack of vision, the lack of awareness that even, you know, women might be full human beings with full human rights like voting, owning property. The person who penned the glorious words of the Declaration of Independence also penned orders for buying and keeping human beings, enslaving his own children. And yet, what are we to make of this? It's radical. It's radical what we wrote. The Declaration of Independence and then the Bill of Rights, which I don't think would pass today because it is radical. What do you mean you can say anything you want? With very, very small restrictions, very narrowly defined. You can say it. It can be untrue, it can be cruel, it can be stupid, it can be radical. You can say it. Because, thank you, Project Uncensored, we don't believe we can have a free country without freedom of speech in the press. So that's those pundits. Another group of pundits that I seem to keep coming across this week were all up in arms about radicals, call them progressives, call them socialists, call them communists, always that terrifying word, were winning primaries, often in very safe Democratic districts, so that they're very likely to go to Congress in another few months. Radical. Again, you know, this country is pretty radical. I didn't see anything in the platform of those folks that would have made them out of place in FDR's cabinet. But that was pretty radical. You know, universal health care, he floated, got shot down by the American Medical Association at the time. Harry Truman carried it forward, though, and subsequent presidents have tried, have edged us in that direction. Anyway. You know, we've always been a country of paradox. Because freedom is scary. And even as people offered these great visions of freedom, they said, whoa, wait, can we really do that? And then we've had these marvelous, I won't say march toward greater freedom, but a stride in that direction and then a falling back. 2 strides and then 3 back. Sometimes a real move forward. Because once you put out that radical idea and once people taste it, what do you mean? This is the land of the free. We don't have a dictator. The polite term was king, but, you know, they were dictators. We get to vote for our representatives who make our laws. We don't have to abide by anything that we didn't put a word in on. With all the bigotry built in that's still there, how long it has taken for everybody to even get the right to vote, and how much pushback there still is. We're out there. Once we say it, people don't want to lose it. Ai Weiwei is a wonderful contemporary artist, Chinese dissident artist, as it always says next to his name. He's usually under house arrest in his home in China. And speaking out of that position of imprisonment, he says, when you constrain freedom, freedom will take flight and land on a windowsill. So, the people in the revolution, they didn't know how it would turn out. Like I said, they were scared. I don't want to go to war. I don't know what's going to happen. They didn't know whether they were going to win. Really was a long shot. Once they won, they didn't know that the British government wouldn't come back and retake this land. And then there have been other times of great doubt in our country, like today, when people look and say, is this it? Is this where the experiment just goes and we don't get more democratic, but we just go into the history books as, well, that was a noble effort for 100 years, 150 years, 250 years. Like after the Battle of Gettysburg, that horrible, bloody battle. This moment of deep doubt where Lincoln prayed that the dead would not have sacrificed themselves in vain. That government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. That was his prayer. He didn't know. Martin Luther King, coming along 100 years later and noting the promises of freedom, quoting this country's foundational documents back at all of us and saying, the country had written a promissory note, a check made out to African Americans that came back marked insufficient funds. This promise of freedom had not been fulfilled, and would it? He died not knowing. We still don't know. And then there's that Langston Hughes poem that reflects the voices of people all along the way who have said, we are falling short of this dream of the land of the free. I don't know if you're speaking to me. We're not there yet. And when freedom isn't extended to everybody, well, Billy Bragg, to go outside this country, British singer who recast the Internationale, he put a line in there, freedom is merely privilege extended unless enjoyed by one and all. And that's what we've had, even in the right to vote, the most basic foundational right of those who want to make a democracy. If not everybody can vote, then it's a privilege of those who can, instead of a freedom extended to everybody. So aren't we lucky to be here where it matters, where what we do really matters? Where a Lincoln or a King or a Weiwei can look and say, what's going to happen? And we can help history happen in accordance with our dreams and not accordance with our worst fears and our cruelest moments. So I want to tell a story, another complex story. I won't go into all the complexity. Let's just say this story of heroism is not pure, just like our founders were not. were far from pure. The story of Esther, which is told in the book of Esther. Interesting book. It's the only book in the Bible that does not have the word God in it. No mention of God whatsoever. The story of Jews under Persian control, colonized. And Esther was a person who had great privilege, who lived on the inside, and she risked it to free others. I mean, this could be a whole sermon. I just want to say, I think we're all on the inside in some way. The inside is what we have. Even if we say tear it all down, what are we going to rebuild it with? With what we've got. We bring our biases, we bring our insider status and our flaws and everything else. So Esther's story is one for us, for those of us who are trying to change this thing for the better while it's running right here all around us. So Esther was secretly Jewish, newly the queen of King Ahasuerus. You might have heard of him by the name Xerxes. Ahasuerus, under the guidance of his grand vizier, Haman, is making his kingdom more and more repressive, and particularly threatening the freedom and the very lives of the country's Jewish minority. And then the Bible says, the book of Esther says, Esther sent a message to her cousin outside the court, her cousin Mordecai, saying, all the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces know that if any man or woman goes to the king inside the inner court without being called, there is but one law. All alike are to be put to death. Only if the king holds out the golden scepter to someone may that person live. I myself have not been called to come in to the king for 30 days. Mordecai really wants her to use this position to speak up for her people. And she says, here are the stakes. The law says if I go into that chamber, I am to be put to death. No exceptions for queens. Mordecai replies to her, do not think that in the king's palace you will escape any more than all the other Jews. And who knows? Perhaps you have come to royal dignity for such a time as this. To be in that place in a time of crisis and danger where he can't say to her, oh, you'll be fine. The king loves you. He won't mind if you go in and say, actually, I'm one of that minority that you're oppressing, and I think it's wrong. Will you stop? He can't tell her that's safe. All he can say is, maybe this is why you're here, because we are all in danger for our lives. So Esther asks him to lead the community in fasting and praying for her, and resolves, I will go to the king, though it is against the law, and if I perish, I perish. She, like us, was living in the heart of empire, in the turmoil of injustice, the halls of power, not always wisely wielded. The hopes of her people were so far from realization that it must have seemed impossible. Why not just lay low, be one Jew who survived these persecutions? But Mordecai's words spoke to her. Maybe she was here for just such a time as this. Were we not made for such a time as this? All the peoples in all the world, with their various governments and their various lives, lived within complete oppression or attempts at freedom, never perfect. Here we are. Not knowing how it will come out, but with a great deal both to struggle against and to lift up as resources and help in making this country a better place. Were we not made for such a time as this? It happens over and over again, you know? We like to tell the happy ever after stories, but that's not how it happens. The civil rights activist A. Philip Randolph advised us, freedom is never given, it is won. And it was won in 1781. And it was won with the passing of the Constitution. And it was won in the Civil War. And it was won in the Civil Rights Movement. And it was lost many, many times in between. And so it wasn't won for good and all at Yorktown in 1781. That was an inflection point, a time when we moved toward our ideals, but as Lin-Manuel Miranda, the composer of Hamilton, notes, black and white soldiers alike wonder in that moment if this really means freedom, and he puts into the mouth of the man who kept hundreds of people in chains, George Washington, not yet. Coming up a little closer to our own day, in the 2018 race for governor in Georgia, Stacey Abrams, an African-American woman, ran against Brian Kemp, who was Secretary of State. That meant, just like our Secretary of State here in California, it was his job to guarantee free and fair elections during the race, and it therefore meant he really ought to recuse himself from that role while he was a candidate, but far from handing off his power as Secretary of State, he exploited it to the hilt. Polling places were closed, disproportionately in largely black districts. Voters were purged from the rolls. Again, guess who? People who requested absentee ballots just never received them, or they received them at a different address than the one that they had requested. While mostly white districts had more voting machines than they even needed, in many minority districts, there were insufficient machines, and people waited in line for many hours, sacrificing half a workday or more if they could. If their jobs were on the line, they gave up, and their vote was not counted. This is 2018, not 1962, we're talking about here. If you want to see it in a lot more detail, there's a good documentary called Suppressed, all about it. Abrams lost very narrowly. Who knows who really won? She knew that the race between her and Kemp, more importantly, between the voters who wanted her as their governor and those who wanted Kemp, had been a rigged contest. So she gave a non-concession speech. In her speech, she called on the best in us to make things right at last. She says, "But we are a mighty nation because we embedded in our national experiment the chance to fix what is broken." Not the illusion that nothing is broken. That's me talking. Just notice the chance to fix what is broken, to call out what is faltered, to demand fairness wherever it can be found. Our fight to count every vote is not about me, it's about us. It's about the democracy we share and our responsibility to preserve our way of life. And then she founded an organization to fight back against voter suppression, to make sure that every voice was heard and every vote was counted, as they've never been in our history, not once. What will we do to fix what is broken? We might have to fix what is broken about the mechanisms for fixing what is broken, which is where it gets really discouraging, but that's the work ahead of us. That's what might tip the crisis moment over toward greater freedom, greater realization of our promise. So folks, justice groups await us in the social hall. They always do, but they've spread out, they've got all their resources, they've got lots of room for you to come to the tables. And we usually remain seated for the postlude, but today we'll sing along with Roger's beautiful, stirring choice of music to go out of our sanctuary and into the world to make a difference. Go to one of those tables, make a pledge to the people who will celebrate this nation's 300th birthday. Make it so they look back at us and say, look at what happened in that crisis moment. Look at the ones who fed their neighbors, who got the vote out in suppressed areas, who worked for a mitigation of climate change, who did all these things that our folks are helping us do. They helped set us on the path to more freedom, to getting closer to our ideals. All these people are prophets, like Queen Esther and Ai Weiwei and Stacey Abrams, A. Philip Randolph, Langston Hughes. All of those whose attempts to vote have been met with ridicule or weaponized bureaucracy, threats, lynching. They risked far more than most of us have to do. Whether it's risky or not, here we are, alive right now at a crisis point. We can make out of a moment of disaster, years of disaster, a paradise, or at least we can open the door to paradise. We have to act for our rights, for our beloved and hurting country, for our dream of this truly democratic government that Lincoln spoke of so eloquently. And I believe, as Mordecai told his cousin Esther, we were made for such a time as this. Our faith, our American faith, grew up intertwined with this country for good and bad, both out of the Enlightenment tradition, which is a mixed bag, the supremacy of Europeans all mixed together with lofty hopes for freedom for all. We Unitarian Universalists have been preaching this from the beginning and shaping this country to preach it, and then to reflect and say, how are we doing? Oh, we're falling short. Let's go further. Let's go further. Let's notice our own contradictions. Let's read our own history. Let's know where we came from so we can know where we're going. The signers of the Declaration mutually pledged to each other their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. Esther said, if I perish, I perish. And in Lin-Manuel Miranda's imagining, those about to fight and in some cases die in the revolution raised their glasses to freedom and said, tomorrow there will be more of us. And so we join them today to make that true. Not to complete the revolution, because greater things always lie ahead. The freedom always has to be won again and again. But to push on past their imaginings towards a land even more free and fair and caring and beautiful and righteous than they could have dreamed. That would be a fabulous birthday celebration. So now I invite you to rise in body or spirit as you're able for our closing hymn, which is This Land is Your Land. The words are projected. Let's sing out.
This land
please remain standing as we share the words to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. In the words of the patriot, the dissenter, the visionary Ursula K. Le Guin, you cannot buy the revolution. You cannot make the revolution. You can only be the revolution. It is in your spirit or it is nowhere. Please follow me and Joe out to the tables that await our commitment. Let us go forth and be the revolution so that America will be.